What was the reason you gave for your resignation?
I was working while I had my business at the same time. And I told them I really want to try to do this full time. I really want to put all of my effort into this because it's something that I would, do on my phone in the break room. And it was getting to the point where it was taking over and I would have to take days off to go speak at nursing schools. And it was at a crossroads where I had to tell myself, all right, what are you going to choose? You can't continue to put 100% into both. I want to reach every struggling nurse, every struggling nursing student, and create a new generation of just confident and skilled nurses.
What is up, guys? Jason here. Welcome back to the channel and our series, Nurses to Riches, The Road to Fire. If you've ever found yourself struggling through nursing school or getting certifications to advance your degree, you're going to love today's guest. Meg is a nurse who teaches nursing students how to excel in their nursing studies and how to pass the NCLEX on their first try. She has had thousands of students enroll in her program with a near 100% pass rate. So, Meg, tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you're currently doing for a living.
Sure. All right. So, Jason, I am Nurse Meg from nursemegrn.com. I've been a nurse for almost 15 years now. I have a ton of experience in lots of different floors. And right now I tutor nursing school students, and we help to tutor nurses who are studying for their NCLEX. And we also do some extra tutoring and help for anyone who's in their first couple of years off orientation and just need some extra training and some skills.
Interesting. So, okay, first of all, where do you live?
So I'm in Central Florida right now.
Okay. Have you always lived in Florida?
No, I actually grew up in Miami. Both my parents are immigrants from Cuba. Wow. So I am first generation. And my dad is actually a nurse, and he's the one who really inspired me to get into the healthcare field. He exposed me really early on to the hospital setting, and he would do home health. And I would get exposed to all of the devices and the smells and the terminology and everything. And it was so interesting to me. And he made me feel like, hey, I can do it. You can do it. You've kind of already seen this atmosphere. Try it out. It's only a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree. Try it out. See if you like it. And I love it. I'm still here.
Wow. So it actually already, that's it. With your background, it already makes sense why you got into the line of work that you're doing right now, because you kind of grew up in that environment. So everything came naturally to you. I'm wondering, though, how was nursing school for you? Do you believe you had an easier time because your dad was also a nurse?
Oh, that's a really good question. So I don't think nursing school is easy for anybody. I think even if you have a large healthcare background in another country and you come over here and you do nursing school, at least you have that basis. But there's a lot about nursing school that's really challenging and really unnecessarily stressful. I did have an easier time with the terminology and feeling comfortable in clinicals, but it's still a really challenging degree to get.
Wow. Do you have any siblings?
I do. I'm the oldest of 4. So I have a younger sister and 2 younger brothers, and I'm the only one in healthcare. Everybody chose something really, really different to do with their lives. That's
funny. It's similar to my experience because there's 4 of us in my family. I have 3 siblings, and none of them work in healthcare. My 2 brothers, one of them works for American Express, and another one, he's like a supervisor for one of the largest construction companies in the country. And then my sister, she does sort of like billing, but not for like medical billing. It's something for like a different type of company. But yeah, none of them work in healthcare. So whenever there's an issue in the family, I'm the one they have to call.
Yep. That's always how it goes.
So yeah. At what year did you graduate nursing school?
I graduated in 2009.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. So you know what? That's like, 4 years before me. So this is back when, right now, the NCLEX has fewer questions, or is it more questions than it used to?
So I could talk about the NCLEX for hours and hours and hours, because for the last 2.5 years, I've been researching this next generation NCLEX. As soon as they announced that they were building the new test bank, I applied to be one of the people to write the questions. I've been researching why they were changing it. And I know there's so much in my brain right now about the next generation NCLEX, but yes, it is a totally different exam. And it is a minimum of 85 questions, a maximum of 150.
Okay.
And right now, as of this year and probably next year, everyone is going to get at least 15 unscored questions.
Oh.
So technically, you're going to get a minimum of 70 if you get all 15 unscored questions.
Interesting. All right. Well, we'll talk about that later. I really want to know about that. Okay. So you graduated nursing school. Where did you first start with? What type of specialty did you work?
Okay, so when I first graduated, I graduated with my LPN degree. So I had tried to go for the RN a couple of times, and I didn't want to go to a private university. I didn't want to take out loans. I wanted to go to my community college. It was also like kind of convenient. It was close to me. And I applied for the RN program a couple of times, didn't get in. It was so competitive because it was so cheap. So I did the LPN route first. And then after I graduated, I started working at a couple of places. I worked at some rehab centers. I worked at some Alzheimer's and dementia lockdown units, which was really fascinating, and then worked in some nursing homes. And then after a year or two, I went over and did my bridge to my RN, and then changed jobs a couple of times, and then saved up, and then did the bachelor's online.
Was there any tuition reimbursement from any of your employers at the time?
Ooh, only for my bachelor's. So when I went and did my LPN degree, I worked a couple of jobs. I worked in the ER overnight, and then I worked at Starbucks in the morning.
What?
And then I worked at, I taught ballet in French schools because I did ballet for a bunch of years when I was younger and I had like a connection with somebody. So I worked 3 jobs during nursing school. And sometimes that's just the way that it goes. Not everybody can, afford to take off of work or, take on those loans and things like that. And then when I got my RN, the bridge program, I worked as an LPN overnight and then went to school during the day. And then for my bachelor's, the hospital that I worked at was a magnet hospital. So they kind of asked us, hey, within a couple of years of you being hired, we need you to get your bachelor's, but they would give you reimbursement for it. You just had to sign something saying, yeah, I'll stay here 2 more years if you pay for my school.
Yeah, I actually had somebody reach out to me asking me, how do you know when a hospital offers tuition reimbursement? And I told them, well, there are a few ways. One is you could know someone who works in the institution that you want to work for, and they might be able to tell you. 2, it might be a union hospital, and very likely if it's a union represented hospital, they very likely have tuition reimbursement. Another one is if it's like a teaching hospital, tied to a university, oftentimes they will provide tuition reimbursement. And then the other one would be like if it's a magnet hospital, obviously they want most of their nurses to have bachelor's degrees. So they're going to very likely provide tuition reimbursement. So it's cool that you managed to get them to help you pay for school.
Yeah. And actually, a lot of times HR will know because HR is the one who kind of deals with the most of the paperwork with your company and with the college. So call the HR department of whatever hospital that you're looking for, and they will know the answer.
Yes. Awesome. So how long did you work in the ER? Because you said you were working there at the beginning of your nursing career.
Yeah, I worked there for about 2 years, and then wanted to try something different. Yeah. Went to cardiac, went to neuro, went to med surge, kind of just went all over. But the only departments I've never worked in is pediatrics and OB, like giving birth. Those are the 2 things that I'm like, nope, I don't want to go there. Who knows what the future holds? But right now I'm like, please, that's not for me.
Yeah. I joked before in a previous video where, like as ER nurses, most of the time if we're just like mostly adults, we don't like seeing pediatric patients and we don't like seeing OB patients, because every time there's a patient that comes in and she's like 39 weeks and she feels like she's having contractions, about to deliver, everybody runs the other way.
Yes, I'm like getting anxiety thinking about it. I'm like, upstairs, you're going upstairs. I see you go. It's like such a scary thing. Yes. I can deal with a trauma coming in. I can deal with the most disgusting thing or the most critical thing. Yeah. But if a child comes in, or someone who's like, I think I'm in labor, I'm like, oh my God, no, go. You need to go to somebody else. Take them up to the floor. I did float to the pediatric ER for 1 shift. Yeah. and I cried the entire time. I had to start an IV in a baby.
Oh yeah.
Oh, with a
Yeah.
flashlight. It was just, I can't handle seeing little tiny people suffering.
Yeah.
I couldn't handle it. And I told my manager, if you do that again, I'm just gonna clock out. I can't do it.
It's funny because thankfully our department or our hospital system doesn't have a pediatric part of the emergency department. It's just like all combined. But I'm so thankful that I know how to do ultrasound guided IVs. So when I get a pediatric patient, and oftentimes when other people get a pediatric patient that needs an IV, they'll ask me to do it. And I never just go blindly because I hate having to poke them twice. So I'll just go with the ultrasound machine, get it once, and I'm done.
Oh, good. So, Jason, you're like the IV king.
Yeah,
you're the
yeah,
one.
yeah. Well, I cheat, right? Because I'm using an ultrasound machine. So, which out of all these units that you've worked in was your favorite?
Oh, I love that question. So, when I first graduated, I had this perfect job lined up when I got my RN. I had a perfect job lined up in the hospital that was a couple blocks from me. And it was actually in a PACU unit. And that's where I did my little clinical rotation in my last semester. It was all set up. I was so excited. And it all fell through last second. And I couldn't start. And I didn't have a backup plan, which was not the smartest thing to do. So this was 2011 or so, or 12. And I could not find a job. It was like a month, 2 months. And by the third month, I was applying at every department and every hospital within 30 miles of me. Wow. And I finally got a call back for an interview, and it was for a cardiac floor. And I hated cardiac. Every time I saw an EKG in school, it was like my brain turned off. I was like, I don't know what they're talking about. But it was the only thing that I could get. So I was like, all right, fine. I will just do my best. I'll put my 6 months in and transfer. And it turned out to be the best floor I ever worked on. It was so welcoming. The culture of the floor was so beautiful. And there was like half experienced nurses that were really kind and really ready to teach. And then it was half newbies like me. So we all bonded together. Some of us had kids at the same time. And there was actually 4 different Megans. So we all had to get a nickname. So that's like when I turned into Meg, and everybody else had like a different thing. And I just, from then on, I was Meg. It was the best floor I ever worked on. And I really embraced cardiology and cardiac patients. And every time I would switch departments, I would always go back to a cardiac floor, whether it was CPICU or it was med surge with tele or it was PCU. I always went back to cardiac, and you just never know what you're going to love with this versatile degree. Yeah. Try a bunch of different floors. If you love it, stay. If you don't love it, go pick something else.
Yeah. Yeah. So my wife, Monica, she's also a nurse. And the other day, we have a neighbor who's always inviting us over for like holidays. So yesterday, 2 days ago, we had a Christmas dinner with her and like 10 or 11 of her other friends. And we were all talking about our careers and what we do for a living. And then when they asked us what we do for a living, and I told them that we were nurses, and they asked us if we had any stories about, how nursing is. And I explained to them that first of all, I only work 20 hours a week. I get 9 days off, and their mouths, 9 days off every 2 weeks, and their mouths dropped, right? Just from hearing that. And then we talked about all of the benefits that nurses have available to them, the unlimited number of options that we have to be able to go from one state to the next. If you lose your job right now, within weeks, 1 to 2 weeks, you could have another job lined up. If you don't like the bedside, you can work as a teacher. You can work in a clinic. You can work for health insurance companies. You can work. I interviewed a nurse who worked for Tesla, triaging patients. So it's like the amount of options that we have as nurses is the reason why I chose nursing to begin with. Before I became a nurse, I was actually a business major in college, but I dropped out when I got laid off from my job, and I switched gears and I went into nursing because of that. And it was the second time I was laid off, and I was like, this is not going to happen again. I need to do something that's not going to get me to lose my job like every other year. and that's nursing to me.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to Disney a couple of months ago, and the person I was with was like, "Oh, let's go to the first aid and see if they have a Band-Aid. They got like a blister on their heel."
Yeah.
And I walked in there, and it was all nurses.
Wow.
It was all nurses hanging out, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I think this is where I'm going to retire. I'm going to go work for Disney as a nurse."
Yes.
Anywhere you go, a cruise ship.
Yeah.
I actually have a nurse who does like concierge emergency medicine. So they will fly out in private planes or in helicopters, pick up a patient, transfer them to an ER or back home if they need to. So yeah, most versatile degree. If you are looking for a guaranteed job, pick nursing.
Absolutely. So, all right. So you did, what was the last specialty you work in, or where do you currently work now after all of that experience?
I know. I love this question, but I also hate this question. So I have quit nursing as of the last couple of years because I really want to focus 100% on my business and really transforming this next generation of nurses. So the last place I worked was a cardiovascular step-down unit.
And that's also in Florida?
Yes.
And how did you depart from your job? What was the reason you gave for your resignation?
Well, I told them I wanted to focus more on my business. I was working while I had my business at the same time. And I told them I really want to try to do this full time. I really want to put all of my effort into this because it was sort of a side hobby, something I did on my days off or something that I would, do on my phone in the break room. And it was getting to the point where it was taking over and I would have to take days off to go speak at nursing schools. And it was at a crossroads where I had to tell myself, all right, what are you going to choose? You can't continue to put 100% into both. You got to pick one. So I told them, I want to try and be successful and really grow this business. So how about I go PRN first and keep that plan B. Yeah. And if I can come back, I can come back.
Yeah.
And they were like, that's fine. Stay PRN. If you want to come back at any time or pick up some extra shifts, do it.
And how did they take it? Your coworkers, not just your manager.
Oh, it was a little sad. I do have a video on TikTok of me quitting and people being shocked, like, oh my gosh, you're quitting. What are you doing? But I think they understood that it was really taken over. I would talk about it all the time. It was like the most interesting and fascinating thing. And I would try to get people to come and help me make this new printout, or what do you think about these graphics for this lecture that I'm putting together or something. So they knew what I was doing and they could kind of see the twinkle in my eye of this is my future. So they were really understanding, but it was a little bit difficult because I was one of the most experienced nurses there. It's a lot of new people, especially in the hospital setting. So it kind of sucked to have a really experienced nurse kind of come up, especially one that was training a lot of new nurses.
Oftentimes I get nurses asking me for advice on what type of business they should start, because many of them who watch my videos want to start their own business or side hustle. And I always tell them, go to your friends, go to your family, ask them what it is that you're always talking about, that you don't stop talking about because you're so passionate about it. And that's what you should start. Okay. That should give you some idea of what it is that you should focus on in your life. Because I had someone who I previously consulted, and he said that he's a case manager, and he was just talking nonstop about case management. And I said, well, why don't you teach other nurses how to get into case management? Because you're so passionate about it. And there's always something. And, there's a nurse that I'm going to be interviewing who does crocheting. And she made like $18,000 last month with her crocheting business. And she's a nurse. She got into it because she was so passionate about crocheting that she was like, maybe I could turn this into a business. And that's exactly what she did. So, again, just because you're a nurse doesn't mean that you can't do things away from the bedside and outside of the nursing field. But the good thing about you is that you turned your passion for nursing into a business.
Yes.
So explain to us what it is that you do in your business now.
Alrighty. So My mission statement is to rescue nurses at their weakest point with the most valuable resources. So I want to reach every struggling nurse, every struggling nursing student, and create a new generation of just confident and skilled nurses. So we do this in a million different ways. So I do sell a couple of courses specifically towards new nurses who are off orientation, but they're still struggling and need a little bit more attention and structured foundation of bedside nursing. I also sell an NCLEX program, which is a wonderful all-encompassing program that gives you practice questions, lecture content. But what makes mine a little bit different from everyone else out there is I teach you how to manage your mindset and your test anxiety, as well as teaching you strategy. So I teach you how to become a really good test taker, as well as the content. So partnered together, we have an almost 100% pass rate. And my courses are only $147. It's not a subscription model. So once you get access, you have access. But I have a ton of other free things. So I have a YouTube channel that does a lot of free lectures, free skills labs. I also have some free printables on my website, like a report sheet, a flow sheet, so that you can organize your 12-hour shift. I have a pharmacology suffix and a pharmacology webinar, if that's something that you're struggling with in school. We've got a ton of free stuff on the website itself with articles and things. The most popular one right now is an interview type of video and blog post where it teaches you exactly what to say in an interview, what to wear, what questions to expect, because that's something that I used to do in my previous job. And I think it's one that brings a lot of anxiety, but you follow my steps, you say what I tell you to say, you're going to get hired.
I love that. And I have so many questions about this now. First, you said you had a lot of conferences or speaking events that you had to do when you quit your job, which is why you quit your job. And you were so focused on this business. So the first question is, were you generating enough income at the time to replace your nursing income? And then the second question is, how did you begin to build this course or these courses that you have? And where did you source all of your information from?
Okay. I love this question. Yeah. This is so great.
Yeah.
All right. Let's start with the why. So I've been training new nurses since I've been an experienced nurse. After a couple of years, I started training and then realized I was kind of doing the same things, saying the same things. And I was also helping to open up a floor in Florida Hospital, a true PCU floor. And we hired brand new nurses and experienced nurses. The brand new nurses didn't always pass the NCLEX the first time. So that was a little frustrating. And I didn't understand why these extremely smart nurses were not passing. So I started to do some study groups in the cafeteria after shift to try to get them to pass. Like what's missing? Is it content? That's when I realized, okay, there was a gap. A lot of them were just so anxious. Let's teach them how to manage their anxiety and have a good mindset. Let's teach them how to be a great test taker. And some of it was content. So going through that, I was like, oh, this is like a program that I've created, because I started to just replicate it. The pandemic hit. Oh my God, we're going to lose an entire generation of nurses. I started to panic with a lot of the things that I was seeing in the hospital setting. And I said, I need to help more people. I can't tutor people one-on-one in that time. We couldn't meet at Starbucks or Barnes and Noble or some coffee shop to go over things. So that's when I started to put everything online and start the website and try to reach a couple more people. And I wanted to really focus on NCLEX, getting nurses. I need more nurses. Let's get more people their license, as well as training new nurses really well. I saw this epidemic on top of the pandemic, but an epidemic of new nurses, training new nurses who didn't get enough training, who are then training other nurses. And it made me think this entire generation is going to be lost. So I started to put out just free stuff on YouTube, printouts on my website, download anything for free that's going to help you give concise report, organize your shift, how to run a code properly, what to do in the first 2 minutes. So the pandemic really pushed me to create these resources. And at first, most of them were free. And then after a while, realizing you have to pay to host your stuff online, and you have to pay to have an email list more than 100 people. And as soon as it started to become more of a financial burden out of my pocket, that's when I started to say, okay, let me create something where someone can pay for it. I can afford to now offer these resources and it'll balance out. When I did quit, it was not at the financial place where I could justify not having the paycheck, but I had so much faith.
Yes.
I know if I could put myself 100% into this and learn marketing and learn SEO and learn all those things, I know that I can grow this and scale it. And especially if I get some help, I know that I can scale it. So for the first 4 months, not profitable. Definitely living on a prayer. And I have a partner who definitely helped to support me and my children.
Yes.
But then slowly it became profitable because I was putting out quality things. It was created by nurses for nurses. And the stuff that I create, the content that I create is not textbook. It's not stuffy. It's not, I'm this professor teaching you. I'm just your friend. And I'm going to explain it to you in such a simple and concise way that it's going to click the first time. And you are going to take the information and you're going to apply it as easily as you learned it. So most of our information comes from myself or other experienced nurses. So I only hire nurses, and we have 2 full-time people right now that create online resources, create the outlines for the lectures. For example, in the NCLEX course, we just updated the pharmacology section. It used to be a 1-hour lecture, and I was getting a lot of students coming to me who failed the NCLEX, and the majority of them were getting below passing in the pharmacology section. So we figured we need to vamp up the pharmacology section of our NCLEX program. So we need to make it longer, more robust. We need to add some more printouts. We need to teach the suffixes and kind of the basics of pharmacology to make sure that people are passing that category. So it's me and 2 other nurses with experience, and we go through nursing school textbooks, we go through online portals, and we create these resources together. And then we kind of fact check each other in a triangle. And then we go to a graphic designer, and our graphic designer will create pretty printouts and kind of make it look nice, because we kind of just put it into a Word document, the content that we want. And then they take it and they make it all nice with our logo and our branding and things like that.
Wow, you've turned this into a full-blown business. How do you, and my question is, what were the steps that you had to take to get to having 2 nurses on your payroll and a graphic designer? And you also have, I'm guessing, someone built your website. You probably didn't build it yourself either.
No, I'm not a techie person. So
yeah. Walk us from like step 1 to where you are right now. What steps did you have to take to get to where you are?
So I think anytime you're trying to build a business, you kind of have to go the free routes first. And you really have to put in the work and be diligent. So for me, that was creating the social media platforms. So creating a TikTok, creating an Instagram and a Facebook page and a Pinterest and a Twitter. You just create all the things and then start to follow similar accounts, engage with whoever follows you, really be clear on who your audience is and what you're offering to them. I mean, be super, super clear and niche down. The algorithms will slowly start to show your stuff to people as soon as people are sharing it. Make sure that you are engaging and being diligent in your content creation. So multiple times a day, answering every DM, answering every comment. It's a lot of work. And then from there, buying a website domain and getting somebody to build the website. At the beginning, I kind of just used a theme on WordPress, hosted it on WordPress, and just created a free theme that they had at the beginning. It wasn't super nice, but at least it had the options to put up my blog posts, to link to my YouTube videos, and to have a download option where people could put in their email and it would automatically send them those free printouts that I was trying to give away. As time went on, we got to update, we got to grow. And then I started to sell some of the resources, and through that also some affiliate stuff. So maybe scrubs a certain brand would come to me, or a bag or something, and say, hey, I see that you're always wearing our scrubs, or I see that you're using our product. How about we give you a little code and you get 10% of each sale? Fantastic. So that was another way that I could save up. I can, save up for the next upgrade on the website, or I can save up to then put money into marketing and ads, which is honestly so, so expensive. And it's really something that you got to pay attention to, and not just create an ad, but really have somebody who knows what they're doing and then study those analytics. Which ads or graphics are people responding to and why? What made that work? What made people click that? Now duplicate it. What's not working? We got to change that and not use it for more than a week or 2 weeks, and, paying attention to that. And then I started the newsletter, where every week I would give out some sort of really great tip on starting an IV, or maybe doing a manual blood pressure, how to get it every time, little things that you only get after years of experience that nobody teaches you in the beginning. So as soon as that grew and grew, then the affiliate income or sponsored income, or then course sales were coming. And then I was able to upgrade and host the courses on a better platform and grow that newsletter. Every time you grow, it's such a great financial benefit, but then you also end up saying, okay, what can we spend this money on? We got to put it into ads, or we have to hire somebody, because I can't be working all day and all night. We have to divide these responsibilities to be able to scale. You need help in any business. You need somebody to help with inventory, or you need somebody to help with even just customer service, answering DMs and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can relate, because this year, so I started my YouTube channel in 2021, right? So I'm actually going on 3 years already, but like next year, February is going to be my 3rd year. But when I first started, I was not monetized. It took us maybe like 6 months to actually start earning even a small amount of money from YouTube. So the first year, I think we earned like $300 or $500. Then the next year we earned, I believe it was like $11,000. But this year we're going to earn around $35,000 or so. But the thing is, all that revenue we earned, we just reinvested in like camera equipment, lighting equipment, all this stuff that we like rebuilding the website.
Yes. Yeah. I'm not going to buy new shoes or a new purse. I'm like, how can I now scale this business? Like, who else can I hire? What new thing can we do? Of course, that's how that entrepreneur mind works. It's not like we get $1 and want to spend it on silliness or something. We're like, okay, how can we make this business even bigger and better?
Yeah. And it's so funny that you talk about like SEO and analytics. I'm so obsessed with my analytics, specifically through YouTube. And I'm sure you're probably obsessed with it through maybe like the sales and the website, the newsletter, and TikTok and all these other forms. But I just recently started getting into newsletters, and I should have done this a long time ago. I don't know why I didn't, but I feel like having a newsletter is so vital for your business, because if one platform fails or falls apart, like TikTok or YouTube, then at least you still have your newsletter to fall back on, because these are the people that subscribe to you. They're the ones that are interested in what you have to say. So even if YouTube fails, you can still speak to your audience through your newsletter.
Exactly. Yeah. You need to own a platform. You need to have a newsletter or a website, because social media platforms, they come and go. Look at the last 10 years. The popularity will fade, or a new thing will come out. And if you just use social media to try to run your business, it's not going to be as scalable. And when culture changes or social media changes, your audience can't follow you. So you got to own something yourself.
Yeah. So do you know what your average order volume is? And do you know what that is?
In profit or?
No, in not profit. Like, so when the average customer comes to your website and purchases a course or a product, what is the average per customer, the average sale per customer?
So it kind of depends. And our timeline is really different. So trying to measure a customer timeline is a little funky with nurses, because a lot of people come to me during nursing school, and it can be a year. It could be 2 years. They could be just finding me in their first semester, using all of our free resources, and then they start to purchase. So because of that, we're trying to create more mini courses to help with nursing school. I'm also seeing a big gap, and I'm sure any nursing student who's listening to this can relate to it. The professors are no longer creating the exams and the content.
Oh,
So they are given by the school a certain textbook or a PowerPoint presentation made by, like, let's say the previous semester. And then they're not making the exams because these big schools are paying ATI or Kaplan
yeah.
or UWorld to create semester test banks. And then those are the exams. So no one knows what's going to be on the test. No one can justify the answers, and no one knows what to teach. So this has now been brought to us by multiple nursing students. So we're saying we need to create mini courses that teach the actual information in a very simple way. We also need to teach early test strategy and early test anxiety management, which we usually teach for the NCLEX. We got to teach it in nursing school so that they can start passing these types of exams, as well as actually learning the information and not just worried about, I don't know what's going to be on the exam. You know what you need to know. You know how to outsmart these standardized tests, and let's help you each semester. So for the majority of our customers are not paying customers. A lot of them are just using our free resources, and right around 40% will then choose to use our NCLEX program, or will then choose to use our new nurse survival guide when they get off orientation.
That's amazing. And how many students? Yeah. So how many students or nurses have signed up for your newsletter?
For the NCLEX program, we've had a little over 3,000. So I think it's about 3,100 right now. I'm definitely obsessed with analytics. And then for the new nurse survival guide, it's about 1,500 that have purchased that and use it. But we've had over 500,000 nurses download our free report sheet. So my free report sheet is designed for you to fill it out top to bottom and then just read it out top to bottom. And it is perfect, concise report. And we have a couple of them depending on what floor you're on. We have ICU, we have PCU, med-surg, OB. We have essentially wherever you're going to end up, we've got a printout for you, a report sheet for you. So that was really exciting. We just hit over 500,000 nurses. So thinking about 500,000 nurses in the country, taking my report sheet to work, printing it out a bunch of times, and then everybody giving good report, feeling confident at the end of their shift, knowing that they're getting concise report, and then better patient outcomes. So we're not missing information. That just it fills me with goosebumps. It makes me so excited and so happy that there's confident nurses, there's better patient outcomes, and it's just from this one free printable report sheet.
And, for everyone who's listening in, we'll talk about this towards the end of the video, but just be aware that everything that Meg is talking about right now is going to be linked in the description of this video, like right below the description, okay, just in case you're wondering. But Meg, what do you find to be like the biggest struggle that nurses are having when giving report?
I think it's knowing what's important and what's not important, especially a patient that's been there for a long time, or that has a lot of non-medical drama related to their story and their admission. Knowing what to give report and what not to give in report is really important. I do have a whole communication course on scripts to talk to the doctor, how to give report to other facilities, also other departments, what you need to tell the nurse when you're going on break, and then what is an update. So when you get the same nurse and they're like, all right, just give me the updates. As a new nurse, I remember being like, what the F is the updates? Like, I guess just what happened today. Do I just tell you what happened today? No, there's very specific information that they want, as well as the doctors. So I just want to help everybody to know what they need to communicate and when. And I think that's the biggest part, is what's important, what's not important. What do I leave out? And what do I absolutely need to tell them?
Yes. And so how many hours a day are you dedicating towards your business at the moment?
So when you start your own business, you are working all the time because it's there. There's no clock in or clock out. Before I would clock in, clock out. I left everything there. But now it's like every time I get an idea, I'm writing in my notes, or when I see a certain email come through, and then I contact my other employee and say, hey, listen, we've got this going on, or can you please answer this? If I am wanting to be on social media for fun, I'll go to my personal account, but I can't help to go to the other account and be like, who's in the DMs? So it has really been a struggle to balance life when you start a business, because if you're like me and type A and want it to work, I can work all day, every day, all night and lose sleep and make it successful.
Yeah.
But finding that balance of, I'm going to put in only 4 hours today. And then I want to plan it out where I'm working Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to have light days on Mondays and Fridays. And I'm going to stop working when my kids come home. So that's sort of the plan that I've had now in Q4, and hopefully moving into 2024, where I am working steadily Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yes.
And then I do a TikTok live at 3 p.m. It ends at 4 p.m., right when my kids are walking in the door. And then I leave everything for the rest of the day until I drop them off at school. And then I will start working again.
Wow. And is that 3 p.m. Eastern time?
Yes.
Cool. Okay. And, so when I first started this YouTube channel, I remember I used to take like 26 to 32 hours to edit one video. And I was like, I did that for about 2 years before I realized I have no time for myself, for my family. This is very stressful because I had to do a lot of research for my videos. Like, I had to dig deep and find out, because like I said, most of it is about like finding the highest paid hospitals, the best contracts for nurses and things like that. So I had to like really dig deep through the union contracts to find out what the wages are like and compare them from hospital to hospital. So I had to build like Excel spreadsheets so that I could talk about these spreadsheets in my videos and and then edit the video with the spreadsheet in the screen recording. But it would take me 26 to 32 hours. I was like, I can't do this anymore. So then I hired a video editor. And I had that one video editor for like 3 months, and he was great. But then he switched his business model to a subscription based model, and he was charging like $5,000 to $7,000 per month. I was like, I can't do this. I'm sorry, this is too expensive. I don't even make that much from YouTube. So now I have a video editor that I hired through onlinejobs.ph. I don't know if you've heard of that website. Yeah, so that's where I found my video editor, and she's amazing. Initially, I was just paying her like $200 every 2 weeks. And I increased her salary now to like $700 every 2 weeks. And if you know anything about the Philippines, it's because that's more like the average salary in the Philippines is about $400 per month. So I have so much content that I have enough interviews to last me till the end of March. And speaking to what you said, that you now dedicate certain times to your business. Every day, I would have my calendar open for interviews every day, including Saturdays and Sundays. So if we were like, I remember one time family came over for summer break and we went to San Francisco. We were in the Bay Area just hanging out, and they were in the park while I was in the car in an interview, like interviewing one of my.
I relate to this so much. I do offer free 15-minute calls, which are just direction. So if somebody needs help in nursing school, or they just need nursing advice as new nurses, or if they're studying for the NCLEX, they want to go over their failed CPR report, or they just want to do questions with me. There's a lot of reasons why people book these free 15-minute calls. And I used to have them just open all the time, because I would also use them as sales calls, and they were converting at around 60% into a course sale. So I was like, now I got to do it all the time. And I'm just going to open my calendar. I'm going to do whatever anybody wants. And I remember it was 4th of July, or the day before the 4th of July, we were having a big neighborhood party and everybody was outside, and I was inside with my little ring light doing a call at what was Pacific time for them, Eastern time for me. And I was like, this is kind of crazy. Like, there needs to be limits and boundaries when you get to a certain point in your business. I do think it's healthy to really go for it, pedal to the metal in the first 6 months to a year, but then you have to establish boundaries. Once you get that good foundation of your business, you have to establish boundaries for your own mental health, for your relationships in your life. And you can get burned out so easily doing that, where it's not fun anymore. And I think that translates into your content and into your customer experience, where you're like doing it out of obligation and your passion starts to fizzle away. You got to keep that in there. So if you're burned out, it's just not there anymore. So set those limits.
Yes. So if I were a nurse student, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to pass my NCLEX. But there's students that are next to me that are telling me, hey, you should invest in Kaplan and HESI and all these other programs. Why should I not invest in those programs, and why should I invest in yours instead?
This is like my favorite question ever. And I do this every day when I take these calls. So the majority of students that come to us, they have 1 failed attempt or 2 failed attempts. And then they're looking for something different. Their first attempt is UWorld and Mark-K. Everyone says to use them. It doesn't work for everybody. Then they use Archer as a test bank. Doesn't work for them. Then they find me. So what makes me different from UWorld, Mark-K, Archer is that I am not just selling you a test bank. If you want a test bank, I have one completely for free on my website. You can go through thousands of nursing, PN, and RN based NCLEX questions. Don't pay for UWorld, don't pay for Archer. My program is a comprehensive program. It also has a schedule for 30 days. So you're going to know what to do when you sit down to study every single day. Also, my program is based on neuroscience. So why we picked 30 days is because when you're less than 21, you can't create a habit. When you're more than 45, you have that Erskstein's forgetfulness curve. It's not fresh in your mind. I want all the information fresh, easily accessible. Now, I also have some test strategy built in because I want to teach you how to be a really good test taker and how to use logic to get to that right answer. Even if you don't know what drug and they give you some whack, rare disease, I don't want you to spiral and say, oh my God, I'm going to get this question wrong. You're not. There are ways to get to that right answer, even if you don't have the content mastered. Now, we're also going to make sure that you know all the content you need to know and master the content. But now I'm also going to focus on your mindset. If you don't think you're going to pass, if you have that failed mentality, if you're discouraging yourself, if you let any little thing spiral you in the exam, once you hit that 86 and you're like, oh, I didn't pass in the minimum, now I'm going to fail, or you start to psych yourself out, we're going to teach you habits around test anxiety that will literally create a new neural network in your brain once you hit those 30 days. I also do evaluations if you're in my program right before you take the NCLEX, where we do questions together and I evaluate you and tell you if you're ready to take the exam. So not just based on content, but also that test anxiety and also that strategy thing as well. I also do free group tutoring sessions once a week. Right now it's on Monday nights. In the new year, it's going to be on Wednesday nights. And we just go over test strategy. We don't go over content. That's it within the program. I just teach test strategy. So my program is definitely coming at it from every angle. After working with students for the last 3 years, I know the missing puzzle piece that causes smart people to fail. And we will make sure that you will not fail. So we've only had 5 people that have had to retake it again out of 3,000 in the last 2.5 years.
You know what, Meg, I previously interviewed this individual who was selling NCLEX question banks, right? Like what you just mentioned that you offer for free, but he was selling it. He said when he bought his Lamborghini, his sales 10x. So I think you should buy a Lamborghini.
I'm probably not going to buy. I'm not an expensive car person or purse person, or I'm not a Louis Vuitton kind of gal. But if I'm making enough money to buy a Lamborghini, I will probably use it to market and reach more people and probably have a bigger marketing budget than UWorld and Archer combined. That's probably what I'm going to do.
That's what I would do too. I totally agree with you 100%. Okay, so Meg, how can my viewers reach you if they want to, find out what resources you have available and what courses you have available?
Yeah, so my website is the best place. It is nursemegrn.com, and you can find me on social media at nursemegrn.com. I'm on all of the things. I'm on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever platform you want to be on. You can find me there.
If you enjoyed this video, then watch this video here where I speak with a nurse who's making $1 million per month from 4 businesses he has created, one of which is an NCLEX preparation course for nursing students who have failed their board.